I saw my name on a folder full of hidden video clips recorded inside our office break room. I clicked one, and there I was alone, eating lunch, crying. I thought I was safe, but someone had been watching me for months, and that someone was my manager. Hey, I'm Sarah. I'm 29, based in Chicago. Until recently, I worked at this small creative marketing firm in the West Loop. You know the type: exposed brick walls, Edison lights, branded coffee mugs, and 15 overworked employees pretending they liked team culture. We had Spotify playlists for every vibe, Slack emojis for everything, and mental health days that somehow made us more stressed. David was our manager, mid 40s, dad jokes, quarter zip fleeces every day. He remembered everyone's dog's name, brought in donuts for no reason, always asking, "You okay? Need anything?" At the time, it seemed sweet. Now, it gives me chills. Most mornings started with stand up meetings. We'd huddle in this glass walled room with half working dry erase markers. David would crack some awkward joke, and we'd pretend to laugh. Then, coffee. Always coffee. I worked near the big window with Jenna Wade DM memes during long Zooms. Lunch breaks were staggered, but you'd always find someone microwaving leftovers in the break room. It was small, neutral gray walls, old vending machine, fridge that made this loud clunk when it kicked on, and in the corner, plugged in above the outlet near the sink, was this white, oval shaped air freshener, faint lavender scent, blue light on the side. Nothing weird. But that was the camera. We just didn't know it yet. The first red flag: David always knew things he shouldn't. One Monday, he asked, "How's the dog? Still sleeping in your bed during storms?" Which would have been fine, except I'd only ever talked about that while FaceTiming my mom in the break room. Another time, I was venting to Jenna about my ex. Totally private. No one else was around. Next day, David brought in cookies and said, "Hope these help with heartbreak. Breakups suck, huh?" I laughed it off. Mind reader. But deep down, I felt off, like I was being read, not just seen. Then came something I couldn't ignore. I whispered to myself, literally to myself, while grabbing tea, "Ugh, I should try Poppy's Deli tomorrow." Just a random thought. The next day, David smiled and said, "Their turkey club is amazing. You'll love it." I froze. I hadn't texted anyone, hadn't spoken it out loud to another soul, just the room. Something was seriously wrong. Thursday, it was raining. Everyone had gone home early because the servers were acting up. I stayed behind to finish a client deck. The office was quiet, just the hum of the vending machine and the storm tapping on the windows. Around 10:00 p.m., I walked to the break room for coffee, and that's when I heard it. A soft clicking, mechanical, coming from the air freshener. I stared at it. The light blinked, then went solid. I grabbed a chair, climbed up, and pulled it from the socket. It was heavier than it should have been. I turned it over, and there it was, a tiny lens, tucked into a pinhole slit. Beneath the casing, on as the card slot. Ifatsik. Rushed back to my desk, inserted the card into my laptop, and then folders labeled by employee name. Mine was first. Inside, hundreds of videos, timestamps, clips. Me, eating, talking, crying, alone. He'd been watching me, us, all of us. Next morning, I didn't go to work. I went to the police, then HR. I didn't tell them everything, just enough to raise flags. By noon, our building was crawling with investigators. David tried to act normal, offering coffee, asking about the deck I was working on, but I couldn't even look at him. Turns out there weren't just one or two cameras. There were four. One in the break room, one near the copy machine, one by the women's hallway, and one hidden behind a fake smoke detector in the wellness nook. The air fresheners were custom modded devices ordered online using a burner account. They found dozens of SD cards, each meticulously organized. David had been running his own sick little surveillance system for over 18 months. He was arrested on site. And here's the worst part: this wasn't the first time. At his previous job, something similar had been rumored, but the company settled quietly. No charges. We weren't the first, just the first to speak up. I didn't step foot in that office again. After the arrest, after the footage came out, after everything was exposed, I just shut down. I remember sitting on my apartment floor with my laptop still open, the folder still on the screen, my name still staring back at me like some sick label on a shelf. The videos were still there, the timestamps, the thumbnails, my face in frame after frame, always unaware, always exposed. And I wasn't the only one. I watched clips of my coworkers Jenna, Michael, Danielle, some laughing, some venting, one of them crying into her hands while sitting alone at the table with her salad unopened. None of them knew. None of us had a clue. We trusted that place. We trusted David. I don't think I'll ever be able to explain how deeply that betrayal hits. It's not just about privacy being violated. It's about your safety being shattered in a space where you were supposed to feel secure, professional, respected. And instead, we were all just subjects, data, entertainment, maybe, for someone who smiled at us while handing out performance reviews. The fallout was fast and brutal. Within a week, the company issued a public statement, called it an unauthorized internal breach. But we all knew what that meant. Lawsuits followed. HR called it deeply regrettable. We received legal forms, hush agreements, settlement offers. I didn't sign right away. I couldn't. It felt like signing away a part of myself. But eventually I did. We all did. Because in the real world, you either speak up and get swallowed, or you keep your head down and walk away with a check that doesn't cover the damage. The office shut down a month later. Emails bounced back. Website vanished. No goodbye party, just silence. Like it had never existed, but I remember everything. I remember the click of that fake air freshener, the flicker of the blue light, the exact temperature of the break, room always a little too cold, the way the chairs scraped the tile, the way my voice echoed just slightly when I spoke while alone. It's terrifying how many details you remember once you realize you were never really alone. Once you realize someone was watching, analyzing, probably laughing, and they looked you in the eye every day, called you by name, gave you compliments, said, "I'm proud of you," said, "We're like a family here." That sentence haunts me now. We're like a family. If that was a family, I want nothing to do with it. I started noticing it everywhere afterward, how often companies put cameras for our safety. How many times managers say they're just checking in. How many offices have smart speakers and wellness pods with built-in audio. It changes you. You stop trusting spaces. You start scanning every room. I still do it. I look for red lights. I listen for strange hums. I unplug anything I don't recognize. I carry a little camera detector, no one of those devices with a red LED light. I never thought I'd need that just to feel safe in a break room. Some of my coworkers took it harder than others. Jenna moved to a different city. She deleted all her socials. Danielle started a blog about digital workplace surveillance. Michael dropped off the grid. We don't talk much anymore, and I get why. It's hard to look each other in the eye when you know someone watched the worst moments of your life and you didn't know it. We all carry that shame, even though we shouldn't. We were the victims. But shame doesn't care who's guilty, it just lingers. There's one clip I'll never forget. It wasn't even of me, it was Danielle. She was just sitting there quietly eating lunch, scrolling on her phone. Then she stopped scrolling and just stared off. Like her mind had wandered somewhere painful. You could tell she was trying not to cry. Her lips pressed together, her shoulders tightened. It was such a human moment, so private, so real. And he saved it, labeled it, stored it. That man watched that moment and thought it was his. That's the part that keeps me up at night. Not just that he recorded us, but that he categorized our pain. Like we were data points in his little twisted archive. And the worst part, it wasn't obvious. He didn't look creepy. He wasn't awkward or aggressive. He was friendly, supportive. He celebrated birthdays, brought in bagels, sent emojis in Slack. He asked about your weekend. He smiled. That's the real horror, not the camera on the wall, but the face behind it, a face you smiled back at, that you trusted. And that trust, it's gone now. I don't know if I'll ever get it back. I've had job offers since then, but I haven't said yes to any. Not yet. I work freelance now, from home. My laptop is taped over. My smart devices stay unplugged. I keep to myself. Maybe that's not healthy. But it's how I feel safe. It's how I control the narrative again. Because I didn't get a choice before. I didn't get to opt in. I didn't get a warning label on the air freshener. I didn't get to say no. I just got recorded, analyzed, watched. I kept the footage. Not all of it, but enough. Enough to remember, enough to prove it happened, It sits in an encrypted folder on an external hard drive locked away in a drawer in my closet. Every once in a while, I open it, not to watch it, but just to remind myself that I wasn't crazy, that it was real, that he was real, and to remind myself what people are capable of. Because if David could hide in plain sight for that long, who else is doing the same thing right now? If you're watching this and thinking, that could never happen where I work, I used to think that too. I thought our office was modern, chill, progressive. I thought my coworkers were like family. But families don't install secret cameras in places where people cry, where they eat, where they feel safe enough to let their guard down. If you're in an office right now, I want you to do something for me. Look around. Look at the smart devices, the plugs, the air purifiers, the clocks. Do you know where the microphones are? Do you know who controls the cameras? Do you even know if there are cameras? Sometimes the scariest thing isn't the dark. It's not the monster in the closet. It's the smiling manager who remembers too much, who gives you compliments that feel a little too specific, who walks into the break room right after you've had an emotional moment. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Your brain is smarter than you think. Listen to it. And if you've ever had a creepy experience at work, whether it's a weird comment, someone following you around, or just something that made you feel like you weren't alone when you should have been, please share it. In the comments, you don't have to name names. Just speak up because silence is what people like David rely on. Silence is how they stay hidden until they're not. You deserve to feel safe at work. You deserve privacy. You deserve better than a place that says, we're like a family while secretly violating you behind the scenes. And if this story makes you want to go unplug every smart device in your office, good, do it. That discomfort you're feeling right now, that's awareness. That's your brain waking up to the truth. No one expects the villain to wear a name tag. No one thinks the predator is going to smile at the holiday party and hand out Secret Santa gifts. But the scariest people are the ones who seem safest, the ones who blend in, the ones who pretend they care. And that's what this was. Not just a crime, not just a breach, but a performance, a twisted theater. And we were the cast. He watched, and we never got to say cut. Now we're saying it